What's up, guys? I finally did it. I finally made a fully automated honey farm. And when I say fully automated, I mean it recycles the bottles, so you don't have to put bottles in it all the time, and it spews out honey blocks automatically. You don't have to craft them. And I thought this would be a good video to show how I was able to make it, and then I'll go jump into my Skyblock world and actually show off the machine. So first things first, how does it actually work? It's pretty simple. As far as the mechanism that's able to extract the bottles, you have your beehive here, you have a hopper underneath it, you have a chest, and then you have a dispenser that's on top of the beehive. It's important that you have to place the dispenser facing down, so the hole is facing down into the beehive, and you're going to fill this dispenser up with glass bottles. In order to avoid any complications, you want to make sure that all 9 tiles are filled with bottles, because what can happen is if one of these is empty, a glass bottle or a honey bottle can actually show up here and mess it up. So it needs to have empty bottles in all 9 squares. So how it's able to actually detect and see like when the beehive is full. So it's pretty simple. As you can see how this comparator just turned on. What a comparator does is it basically measures redstone signal. And this beehive actually can display a signal between 1 and 5. 1 being that it is, I think it's actually 0 to 5 actually. 0 being that it's completely empty, and 5 being that the beehive is completely full. So a signal only moves 1 block at a time. So basically what you can do is, if you want to make sure that this only sets off a signal to the dispenser when it's full, you simply have to make a comparator, have a block between the comparator and the beehive, and then count out 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then on your 6th block you put a repeater. What a repeater does is it takes a signal and basically amplifies it and gives it more range. So this only gives a range of 5, but with the repeater it adds an extra 15 range to it, so it's able to send the signal along this redstone until it finally gets to the dispenser, where it goes and it fills one of these glass bottles with honey. So that's basically how this works. And it's very efficient. It only fires when the beehive is completely full, so you don't have to worry about it firing when it's not full. And then it gets collected in this chest here. As far as how to actually turn the honey bottles into honey blocks, basically you need some sort of delivery system. So here I have basically, let me get some honey blocks here, or honey bottles. We'll get 16. We'll get a bunch of them. You feed them in here, and you can see what's happening. It's spewing out bottles, and it's also spewing out the blocks. I'm just going to explain exactly what I did. So you have to have some sort of delivery system, and then you have to have 2 crafters. You have to have 1 here and 1 here. So this one, you want to select these boxes on the outside for, in this case, I want to make honey blocks, which to make honey blocks, you need 4 honey bottles. And then you put a comparator right behind it like this, right? So these 2 lights are butted up against the actual crafter. And then you want to have a second comparator that's facing into that comparator with the 2 lights going up against this one. Now this one's different because this one's actually sideways, which it has to be sideways in order for this to work. And it's actually pretty easy to do. If you just jump up, if you just jump up and place it, it'll put it sideways. And I like to have the top of the table up against the comparator. And then I basically have a repeater and then a redstone signal that goes around like this, and then it goes up to a block right here. It could be any kind of block, and then you just put the redstone dust on top, and that is literally it. So let's see it in action. So if I get some honey bottles. And let's get a pretty decent amount of them. I want this thing to run for a while, just to show it works. So we need to have some sort of delivery system, so let's put the honey bottles in there. So you can see how it's also creating sugar, and we can fix that really quick. So it spewed out basically a bunch of honey blocks, but also spit out sugar. So what I forgot to mention is you need to have whatever crafting recipe here, but on this one, you need to do the same thing, but you need to leave, you need to have one extra square pushed in, so it's not able to actually complete the recipe. And what this does is it prevents it from making sugar, because sugar is just one honey bottle. So let's get rid of that, and let's get some more honey bottles. And let's put it in here, and it should work now. So now it's just spewing out the empty bottles and the full honey blocks. And you can see how it works in action. So it's not crafting the sugar anymore, it's just crafting the actual honey. And there you go. So now we get 16 honey blocks, and it leaves behind just the glass. Now you might be wondering, how are we going to sort the honey blocks and the glass bottles? And I thought this would be something that would be really difficult, but no, it's actually pretty easy. How this works is basically you just get a hopper, and we're going to put it facing, we're going to put this one facing this direction. And we're going to put a chest here. So let's get a chest. Put the chest in there. Boom, just like that. And then we're going to add more hoppers that go in this direction. And then we're going to put a chest here. So what's cool about this design is this thing will actually spew the items out in different locations. So with the block that it creates, it's going to spew it into this hopper. It's going to go into this chest. The bottles, it's going to spew them a little bit further and go in this hopper and go in this chest. And we're going to go ahead and show that. So if we take more honey bottles, I had to tinker with it a little bit in my world, but it works pretty much every time now with really no complications. But you can see how it's kind of launching them kind of far, but the honey blocks are going into this chest and the bottles are going into this chest. So you don't have to build an actual sorter for this thing. You do occasionally get some spillover, but that's very easy to remedy if you just get any blocks, really. You can just put them on the side here. And then what I'll do, just to make it extra safe, I'll get a hopper. Which, let me get a hopper. I'll get a hopper and I'll point it into that box. That way, even if it spills over here, it'll still go to the right chest. I tried putting a block here, right? I tried doing this, but what ends up happening is it'll hit the corner of this once in a while and go into this chest. So you don't want to put a block there. You want to leave it just like that. But it works. We got 20 honey blocks, and then we got 64 and 15. So let's go ahead and try it one more time. just to make sure, you know, it's not a fluke or anything like that. Everything's empty. Let's go ahead and get our honey blocks, or our honey bottles. Fill the chest with them. And there we go. So it's putting all the honey blocks in this chest, putting all the bottles in this chest. And that's basically how it works. So what's really cool about these crafters is not only can it craft stuff, but as long as you're smart on your hopper placement, you can basically get, that stops that from happening. You can basically have it sort them automatically, so you don't have to make your own sorter. And we did get a glass bottle here, which it happens like maybe 1 out of 100 times. I might get a glass bottle in here, but it's very consistent, so it's really not that big of a deal. But that's basically it. So I'm going to go to my Skyblock world and actually show the whole farm. So this right here, this is just an item sorter. This is actually a different, it's not a farm, but it just sorts items. This is the farm. So it's basically just beehives. Kind of the same concept as before. You have to have a beehive, you have to have a dispenser on top, a hopper on the bottom, right? Just like in our mini example. And all of this is the same. You have to have a comparator that sends a signal to a repeater, right? And then once the signal strength gets to 5, it'll activate the repeater down here, which will basically send the signal back up. It'll go to the dispenser. You want to make sure these dispensers are fully filled with glass bottles. And then what I did was I basically have a line of hoppers, and these hoppers are all underneath the beehives. I just created a line, and basically it's just a way to transport the honey bottles. And then what I have here is droppers. So you can actually make an elevator for your items by using droppers. And how I did it was basically right there, a honey bottle went into this dropper. This comparator found that there was an item in there and set off a signal. The signal goes to this repeater, which sends a stronger signal to this repeater. And basically these repeaters are just meant to like transfer the signal farther. That's really the only point. And then I basically wrapped around this tower of droppers, basically doing 2 by 2. So I do 2 blocks here, 2 blocks here, 2 blocks here, 2 blocks here, 2 blocks here. And I basically did that wrapping around the entire way. And eventually I had to put another repeater because the signal strength is only 15 range. So I added another repeater to add another 15 range. So then I brought the redstone up to another repeater. And then I basically looped around here. And then I have a repeater with a powered rail. So this was pretty tricky to figure out, but what I ended up doing was when I get a signal, it'll go all the way up to this redstone. It'll hit this repeater, which will activate this redstone, or this powered rail, which will move the minecart. And that's basically how that works. And then the minecart will have the bottles in it. It'll move along this track. It'll come up here. And then there's a hopper right here. It'll drop the items into the hopper. The items will be transferred over here to our crafter, which is this is the same exact crafter where you have one here and then you have another one that's turned over, and then the recipe is has 1 block missing to prevent it from like spewing out like sugar. Same exact example. And then same exact setup. And right now this has been running for like a few days. We got 44 honey blocks. This hopper right here connects into this hopper, so even if the bottles spew over right here, it'll still collect them. And then this hopper pipeline goes to basically a minecart with hopper, which is able to basically take all those bottles and put them back in the farm. And that's how it works. It's a fully automated honey farm that produces honey blocks and recycles the bottles. So I thought I'd make this video just to show people what I did and how I was able to make it. I'm really not that good at redstone. I'm actually pretty bad at redstone, and I'm honestly amazed I was able to make something like this. But I didn't find a single video on YouTube on how to make this. So I had to basically take like 10 different videos and modify some of the projects slightly in order to get it to work. But there you go. That's how it works. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.